to the tears in my eyes.
The cream of the crop.
Acknowledge me.
Good morning, everybody. Episode 401 of Top Rope Nation. Just Ryan Drosty and Jesse Velasquez this morning. Justin Joint has traveled, I believe, to South Dakota for the weekend to visit a cousin and to watch a little soccer. I think he'll be back later today. But that means no Top Rope Nation for him. So it's just Jesse and myself to talk all the latest in WWE and AEW. And Jesse, we got a lot to talk about this morning. How you doing, sir?
We most certainly do. We have more topics to talk about than South Dakota has trees.
That is true. That is true. I almost said the great state of South Dakota, and then I thought, would that be accurate? I don't think we have a lot of South Dakota listeners, so I don't think I'm going to offend anyone by saying that. I have not been to South Dakota in quite a long time. You?
It's been a while as well. I went and visited a buddy of mine who was going to Northern State, which is in South Dakota. That's where he hit me with the line with there are as many good-looking women in South Dakota as there is trees.
I think it's been about 25 years since I've been there to Brock Lesnar's home state, right?
Yankton, I think, was the city.
All right. Well, Justin, I hope you're having a good time and you can put on the listener hat today and listen to us maybe on your drive back. Jesse, we are going to talk about some WWE items, I think, right off the bat. I think anyone that's tuning in here on YouTube will know what we're going to talk about because it is the main thumbnail on this episode, and that is John Cena's final opponent in the build or lack thereof to his final match. So before we jump into that discussion, guys, if you are here right now, click like on the live video. That would help us out greatly. And of course, subscribe to the channel while you're here. It is free. We've got a few people here this morning. Brittany is in the chat. Good to see Brittany
Love
here.
this.
We got Carl here in the chat already this morning as well. I do not know, Carl. Do you know?
I'm gonna guess Sturgis Country.
Sturgis
Yes.
Country. Yes. Okay. Yes. That is where Road Wild was back in the day. Sturgis, South Dakota. The Harley rallies. That is correct, Carl.
1996 to 1999, I believe, was how long that pay-per-view ran.
Yeah, that genius Eric Bischoff giving away free gates.
Mm-hmm.
What a businessman. What a businessman.
And you wonder why, copyright Wheel of Fortune, he went through bankruptcy.
Hey, Jesse, I think you're going to have some things to talk about on Unplugged. Let me just plug this right now. Jesse's Unplugged has been just unbelievable lately. He did 2 episodes on the Patreon side last week. Plenty of Eric Bischoff talk coming up from me, probably given some words from the man who you have named a weekly segment after on TRN Unplugged. So I'm looking forward to that here in the days ahead.
He's been on fire recently. Not as if hasn't been on fire for the last few months, but now he gets a segment on Eric Bischoff's show and his head gets as big as the size of some of his alcohol bottles.
I don't know if you're dipping into the Boone's Farm. I love when you say that on the show. Guys, if you have no idea what we're talking about, this is just another reason to get on the Patreon. Link is in the broadcast description. Always entertaining every week. There's a special segment on Jesse's show that I think you would enjoy. And I'm assuming he's going to bring in Eric Bischoff to the discussion here.
It's going to be majority current day stuff. I'm taking a break from ECW this week. I will be unveiling a current top 10 list. This is a nice little spoiler. A top 5 list from somebody from yesteryear, and then kind of giving you Cliff Notes version of somebody's career that I've grown mighty appreciative of in the last couple of months.
Okay. All right. I like the tease. And there's the names of our patrons going across the bottom of the screen right now. So thank you to everyone who has joined up. Get us to 50 patrons so Justin Joint can launch his solo show, Meet the Nation, where he will interview our listeners. That will be a Patreon exclusive once we get to 50 patrons. We got a little ways to go, less than 10 though. So, you can sign up, you can help us out and get some not free, but get some bonus content while you're over there for just $5 a month. The best way to support what we're doing here at Top Rope Nation. We got John in the chat this morning as well. Welcome, John. Let us know your thoughts as we go. All right. This is the topic. John Cena. They're building to his final match on December 13th in Washington, D.C. at Saturday night's main event. And, it's going to be a 16-man tournament to decide who faces John Cena in his final match. We may have hinted at this last week on the show. I cannot remember. I think we did because they had announced it, but we didn't get too deep on it yet. So I wanted to have a chance to rant on this a little bit. Here are the matches that they've announced for John Cena's final opponents tournament. I don't know what the hell to call it. The time is now tournament, whatever. All right. On SmackDown next week, Jey Uso taking on The Miz. LA Knight taking on we don't know who. Nick Aldis acted like it was a big surprise, whoever he drew to face LA Knight next week. And then on Raw this coming week, we've got Shinsuke Nakamura taking on Sheamus and Damian Priest taking on Rusev. That's 7 names: Uso, Miz, Knight, Nakamura, Sheamus, Priest, Rusev. I would not be a fan of it being any of those guys, Jesse, and that is half the field. How are you feeling about this?
They should rename this tournament the Their Time Was 2011 tournament, if I'm being 100% honest. I think there's only 2 that didn't peak in the round in that time were LA Knight and Damian Priest. Fun fact, Nick Aldis's birthday, I believe, was a day or 2 ago. He is younger than everybody in this tournament.
Wow. Wow.
So there's half the field still left to announce. What I said last week was this is a golden opportunity, if you were smart, to throw 16 very young names in there, and the winner just becomes, just gets elevated automatically by being in the ring with John Cena. That's simple professional wrestling business. But instead, you're doing what you've done all year long and revisiting old foes, and then just throwing some of your larger names in there. So there is a pretty deep concern of who's going to win this thing. I don't blame a lot of these folks because Hunter's creative in the last 6 months has dramatically dropped, in my humble opinion.
Yeah. I think I said this last week. The laziest way to go about doing this thing. I mean, I would prefer you build to one of your all-time legends' final matches with some kind of storyline so that the only draw right now is Cena's last match, but like it's going to end up being hopefully, there's been a lot of talk that it could be Gunther, just so he can elevate him even more. We will see if that actually comes to pass or not. There was a joke in our Facebook group this week about it being Jey Uso and Jey Uso defeating John Cena, possibly in his final match. I would not be a fan of that. It's just there's not really any stakes to it. You think of like they've done this right in the past in this company. They didn't have the it was what was it? Whenever Flair would lose, that was going to be his retirement match, if I remember right.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't have an end date announced, but I think everyone kind of knew it was going to be WrestleMania. Still, that was a better stipulation, a better way to go about it than this. There's also the question, will it even actually be his last match? We'll see. Retirements don't seem to stick in pro wrestling. But in my opinion, this is about the laziest way you could possibly get there.
It's a very sad situation because, like I said, there's a lot of people, again, under the age of 30 that have been thrown in the spotlight and could get a golden opportunity to do it just by running a gauntlet of established veterans and people that are still somewhat respected in that company. So nothing really sticks out to me. I don't want to see Shinsuke Nakamura make a run to the championship. Not that it's going to happen. I don't want to see Rusev make a run to this specific situation. His time was a long time ago too. So yeah, there's just not much to really speak of when it comes to what we've seen. So the other 8, we hope that they're around 30 years of age or younger, but the odds of that are very slim.
Very slim. John says, less stakes than South Dakota has trees. Carl says, to answer the thumbnail, drop ball, yes. Surprising, no. Missed opportunity. Let's wait to see the opponent. But overall, Cena's last year should have been much, much more. It all sums up WWE in 2025 by the numbers and boring with an occasional ill-conceived moment. Yeah, I mean, we've ranted on this for a while now. Hunter's booking has not been good. It's been lackluster for quite some time. I would say all of 2025, really. There's just really nothing happening right now in WWE that has me excited at all. And I do keep up with the product, and watch a lot of it. It's just very much paint by numbers each and every week. It feels like you'll get some good matches here and there, especially out of the women's division on Raw. We've talked about is been a little more enticing to watch with some fresh faces. Yeah, they're bringing up some people on SmackDown too, I guess. But overall, I mean, the top of the card has been pretty stagnant, Jesse. Pretty stagnant. We saw that last week with Saturday night's main event. And the follow-up, I don't think was great either. We don't really have any feuds right now for the titles. I guess they hinted that the McIntyre stuff isn't over with Cody. But now they're building towards War Games. So that's going to be kind of a stopgap where some of these guys are going to be involved in War Games matches like Punk, for instance, before we get to his first challenger, I guess.
This is the perfect time to bring this up. Oh, I'm going to really pop some eyes here and some eardrums with this statistic. Drew McIntyre is 1-18 in his last 19 championship opportunities.
Good God.
You keep giving this
So
guy,
bad.
yes, 1-18. And by the way, that one win, he lost that title about 6 minutes later. So that kind of goes to show what they truly think of Drew McIntyre. We love him still, but you can't turn a blind eye to the fact that he gets thrown in these scenarios and gets turned away. How can you take somebody seriously? But again, with Pavlov's dogs, they take pretty much everything seriously. It's not fun. The only fun thing I went and YouTubed a lot of these. Ilya Dragunov's United States title matches have been outstanding. I would highly recommend just taking 8 to 10 minutes and watching these segments, because seriously, that dude is phenomenal in the ring. You just have to give him a storyline, because you can only run this United States title gauntlet for so long. But I mean, he's even making Johnny Gargamel somewhat relevant for about 8 or 9 minutes. That's the best
Gargamel.
That's the best Gargano match I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
Nathan Fraser looked incredible in that match, and he's formerly Ben Carter in AEW. So again, they have the talent, but why don't they throw them in meaningful storylines?
Well, this has been the talk. Hasn't this been the talk for years about how AEW is the work rate promotion? They don't have stories, but WWE, it's all about stories. And didn't Hunter just give an interview somewhere recently where he talked about how they don't put together the shows based on best matches? It's all about the stories. Dude, your stories suck. What stories? The only draw for me right now turning into WWE is, like you mentioned, Ilya, the women's division. I mean, like there's some talented performers there, but their storyline is not there. I'm watching SmackDown. I got to put this up. Hold on. Let me put this picture on the screen, because this is just laughable to me. And I don't mean to keep constantly ragging on this guy, but I just cannot believe that anyone takes this guy seriously in this role. I just cannot believe it. So let me just put this on the screen.
You're not going to be posting the executive producer sign already, are you?
No. But like, there's some cool guys in the group with this new bloodline, but I'm sorry. Who is taking Solo Sikoa seriously leading this group? Look at him out there. Just look at him. He's not the leader of a top faction. He has, to quote the young kids these days, he has zero aura. None. I'm sorry. That group has nothing. The people around him have something. I'll give him that. And obviously, we've talked about Jacob Fatu coming from that group and how he's phenomenal. But like, I just can't believe he's still being pushed as the leader of that group, man. There's nothing there. There's nothing there. He's a fine performer. He's not a top of the card guy, though. It's not working. Square peg, round hole, all that kind of thing. So the storyline stuff hasn't been there since the bloodline stuff kind of ran its course. I'm sorry, they're beyond the 5th inning at this point. It's done. It's done. And there hasn't been that next thing to really get me interested. I mean, if you didn't see SmackDown, it ended with Cody wrestling Aleister Black, a guy who he's got, a lot of history with going back to AEW. But the match gets it's a schmoz. Out comes Drew McIntyre. Damian Priest ends up coming out there. Drew gets suspended by Nick Aldis. I mean, Cody, Aleister Black, does that really do anything for you? I mean, no, not me. It doesn't. So
Pepperidge Farm forgets he lost to R-Truth about 3 months ago. That
Right.
was after he turned back into a comedy act, not Ron Killings.
yeah,
And didn't he lose his feud with Damian Priest too?
yes, yeah.
So then what's the point of elevating him? And they continuously, what was this? So yeah, 3-4 years ago when Malachi Black was brought into AEW and he was just destroying people and he whooped Cody Rhodes 3 separate times in a row. I mean, they're not going to rehash that because again, it's gone. That aura
Yeah.
is gone. And one other thing too, Talatanga defeating Ray Phoenix. Ray Phoenix getting pinned left and right. Is he getting paid the same?
Wait, I thought his career was on the up and up, Jesse. Everybody told me that going to WWE, Ray Phoenix was on his way.
Yeah. This was a good career move for Penta because he's actually allowed to sell masks now.
Yeah, and he's more at the end of his career, like whatever. Ray though, like there was still some juice there for him to. I mean, he'd done a lot in AEW. I don't really fault them for going there and getting paid and whatever and wanting to work the WWE schedule for a while, but man, it has not been satisfying.
Not whatsoever. I think he had a phenomenal match with Sami Zayn in the United States title challenge. So, like I said, I mean, if you really want to go back on SmackDown and watch all those clips of those matches, I think that's worth your time. That's probably the only thing that's worth your time. Yeah, the Raw Women's division, I will definitely admit, has been a much better product and are easily the best thing I think from either show.
Yeah. Let me get to some of these chats here. So, Brittany said Solo has no Riz and it's embarrassing.
That is correct.
That is correct. Carl said, I don't get why they moved away from Solo being a bit more comedy, which was the direction in early summer. I mean, yeah, I just can't take him seriously. I mean, I've been saying this for months on the show. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work. He's totally miscast in that role. Now, I think, if they would have wanted to go forward with Jacob Fatu as the leader of the faction, that would have had a lot more juice to it. But, we'll see what happens with him as we go forward. But this is how, go ahead, Jesse.
I was going to say, we have somebody in the chat right now that does not watch any WWE, and he kind of echoes the sentiments that a lot of us do. WWE disappointing fans? No way.
Oh, yeah, that's Tim. That's a good friend, Tim. So here is what is scheduled as of right now, based on what we're seeing for Survivor Series, which will take place on November 29th, Petco Park in San Diego. Of course, home of the Mysterios. It looks like they're building to an IC title match between Ray and Dominic. We had Ray come back and say that Dominic, calling himself the greatest luchador ever and how disrespectful it is and all of that. And they got into a little fight on Raw. So that's probably happening in their hometown. That'll be cool. Stadium match, father versus son. That'll be fine. Crowd will be pretty up for that one.
Mm-hmm.
Originally, the plan for War Games, and this is per Dave in the Observer, was Punk, Jey Uso, Roman Reigns, Jacob Fatu, and then either Jimmy Uso or LA Knight against Rollins, Breaker, Bronson Reed, Brock Lesnar, and Austin Theory. Now, Jacob Fatu could possibly be out for that match. And if that's the case, then they would go with both Knight and Jimmy. Obviously, Rollins is now out, and now Logan Paul has assumed that position, teaming up with Division on Raw we saw on Monday night. So that is that's going to be the case there. There really hasn't been any teases for Lesnar or Austin Theory yet, but apparently that was the working plan. They do have a week from tomorrow, Raw's in Madison Square Garden. So they're likely going to do a lot of the build starting there. I would say that's going to be a big show. All the big stars should be at that one. On the women's side, for the women's War Games match, the plan was AJ, Rhea Ripley, who has a broken nose right now, so we don't know if she'll be able to wrestle or not, but AJ, Rhea, Io Sky, Charlotte, and Alexa Bliss against Nia Jax, Lash Legend, Becky Lynch, Asuka, and Kyrie. So that's the working plan over there. And we've seen like some of the build to that. We saw that on SmackDown, Lash Legend attacked Alexa when Charlotte was out there in her match. So there's been like little subtle teases for that already on those people kind of getting together. Same with Charlotte. So yeah, we'll see what the status is with Ripley though, because she's got this broken nose and we don't know when she's going to be back. And then, like I said, Dominic and Ray. We don't know if Cena's going to be on the show or not. He's got like 4 dates left, I believe. So we'll have to see if he does work his final PLE or not at Survivor Series. It would make sense to get him out there. It's a stadium show, for God's sakes. But nothing announced or really teased yet so far.
Yeah, they probably should do that. I was gonna ask about like WCW back in the heydays. Weren't these War Games matches like 3-month to 9-month to year-long builds to these things?
Yeah. The
Jeez.
couple of weeks. And this is the thing we over the years here on the show too, we've always kind of complained about is, and kind of this is becoming an issue with AEW too, with Blood and Guts, but like just doing it because it's time to do it rather than, the stakes actually warranting the match happening. I mean, they're clearly just doing it because it's Survivor Series time, and now this has become a thing where they do War Games at Survivor Series. I don't really like that. I thought it was a step in the right direction when they got rid of the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view and they only bring it out now when it's warranted, like they had with Punk and Drew last year. So yeah, I would prefer the longer builds with more story. And this is the story promotion from everything I'm told. So not that doesn't really jive with me, Jesse.
No, none whatsoever. Speaking of the most egregious thing on SmackDown last couple of days ago was the fashion that Julia lost her WWE United States Women's Championship. It was in 90 seconds. Now, it's fine that she lost to Chelsea Green. That's okay. But I think a lot of people who know what Julia is capable of, because I'm seeing BlueSky mentions in her Marigold match against Mayu Iwatani, which I still haven't seen, sounds fantastic. But Julia comes from that same mold. Like, she can really work. And they haven't showcased her whatsoever on the SmackDown side of things. It's miserable. They should be doing over there what they're doing with Stephanie Vakir on Raw. Now, that probably falls on Road Dogg Jesse James and his what seems to be miserable booking, because what we're seeing in concurrence with this is attendance is falling a lot on SmackDown shows. I'm starting to see that a lot more than I am Raw shows, even though there is a little bit of a drop there too. There's one other point I had, but it'll probably come back to me a little bit later.
Attendance issues, you say, Jesse?
A little bit.
Oh man, I saw some quotes out there from Nick Khan this morning when I was browsing the news, and I didn't write them down, but it's just disgusting the way they talk about. I mean, I know it's a business and everything, but talking about how they're creating scarcity in the marketplace. He said something, paraphrasing here, and running less house shows, so now there's more demand. We know when they do visit a market, that has not bared itself out in the numbers at all. Pretty much every single market that they are running, their numbers are down recently, like significantly market to market. They're still making a lot of money because they're price gouging the customers who are willing to pay it. So the gates are still well. I wish I remembered who this was. Someone on social had said that WWE doesn't like sellouts because that means there's money left on the table. And I thought that was kind of funny because they'll charge they'll charge these high exorbitant prices to get that gate as high as possible, rather than have a full building with less money per ticket, if they have to make the gates look better. But man, let me just pull up WrestleTix. I've been doing this on the show a lot in the last few weeks. You guys know I was talking about market to market. I've published this on my Twitter feed as well, and how the company has been doing since their last visits, and it's not been good. They've been down about 30% in most markets this fall compared to the last time that they ran those markets. Let's look at SmackDown and how SmackDown did, because last week the big excuse, SmackDown did terrible. So did Saturday night's main event in Utah, but I heard, it's Halloween, we got to give them a break for that.
Sure.
Okay, yeah, I'll give them the break since Friday night was Halloween, but Saturday night's main event the next night, that was not Halloween. Where is this on WrestleTix? They gotta have the SmackDown. Hold on a second.
Yeah, while you're doing that,
Yeah,
I figured out what I was gonna talk about and how Mark Shapiro wants to do away with Vince McMahon named PLEs. So you're gonna switch out WrestleMania and SummerSlam and Royal Rumble and Survivor Series? No, I don't think you're gonna do that.
No, you can't get rid of those. I mean, those are like the preeminent pay-per-views.
Yeah. Money in the
the
Bank, you can go.
Yeah, I don't see a final number on WrestleTix, but let's see. The last one I saw, they did 6,800 for SmackDown in Greenville, South Carolina on Friday night. It was set up for 7,100, so it was not quite a sellout. The last time they were there was in May 19th of this year. They did 9,800. So they went from 9,800 to 6,800. That's like what I said, about a 30% drop, right?
Mhm.
And I've also heard a defense of this. Oh, well, the last time they visited a lot of these markets, it was Mania season. Mid-May? No, that's not an out anymore for this. And some of the shows I was comparing in the past, they were happening in like February. It wasn't really Mania. It was between the Rumble and Mania, but that was a long, long stretch last year. So I don't really think. I think that when a touring act comes to town, it doesn't matter what season they're in. If you like the product, you're going to buy a ticket, unless the ticket is way out of your price range, which is unfortunately the case for a lot of these WWE shows these days.
Yeah, I'll be curious when Raw comes back to the XL Energy Center, because it was here it was like the week or two before WrestleMania in Vegas this last year, and what they do year over year, or appearance over appearance. So I mean, the sky is not falling for WWE. They're
No.
still doing really well
Mhm.
in terms of financials and things. I think they just reported that Q3 they made a boatload of money. I don't have those exact numbers in front of me. What we're just trying to point out is I think people are really starting to catch on that the money is too much to spend for a family of anywhere from 3 to 5, and then also the product is just starting to take a dip in terms of the quality that's on these shows. It's just getting harder and harder to watch them. And I guess one last thing to talk about here with SmackDown. I know it was Halloween. I know that cable has been struggling quite a bit, but SmackDown went under 1 million viewers for the first time in ever.
Yeah.
I think ever since that FS1. I
was going to say, other than when they would like move the night the show was on. Yeah. Other than that.
So there's your telltale sign that, again, things are dipping. Again, I mean, they have time to resurrect it, but you have to improve the product as a whole. And that's something that they haven't done since like 2024, beginning of.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, I don't want people like clip this and say, "Oh, these guys are idiots. They're saying WWE screwed." That's not what we're saying at all. We're just saying that they've peaked. Like they're they're coming down now. We've seen months of evidence from that. They're still, yes, in a much better place than like an AEW. They're selling way more tickets than AEW, and they're still making a ton of money. We're just saying the price gouging the people who are willing to pay that money, which is kind of disgusting. And also, like, to say that they're still on the up and up and they're that's not really true. The demand is clearly diminished. And you can say it's creative, you can say it's ticket prices, you can have that debate, but it's clearly happening. The evidence is out there. They're not selling more tickets, they're selling less tickets. When you look at market to market, last time they ran there versus now, clearly the numbers are coming down. All right. So let's see. Carl says Sky isn't falling, but they have fallen from A+ to B+ in how I'd grade their out of the ring business. Yeah. And then Carl said running 2 nights in Salt Lake City seem ambitious to me. Isn't it super isolated? Yeah, it's pretty isolated. That is for sure. And it hasn't historically been like a super strong market for pro wrestling in general. So that was pretty ambitious. I didn't look close enough to see if they did 2-for-1 tickets or anything like that. SmackDown, Saturday night's main event. I know they had quite a few more people in there for Saturday night's main event versus SmackDown. I think SmackDown only had like 5,000 people or something like that. It was a pretty low number. I think they got more like 8 in there for the Saturday night's main event show.
Yeah. So just pointing out some of the flaws that have been happening. I know I just saw there's an NXT live event coming to Roy Wilkins Auditorium next Friday. I have my sons, I won't be going, but I just was curious and what they were doing from a tickets perspective. And they're still charging out the wazoo. I think it's more money to sit closer to the ring than I paid for AEW's Dynamite in March of this year too.
And that's wild, for NXT. I can't imagine paying that for NXT, but here we are. All right, let's kick it over to AEW now. We know from our survey most of our listeners prefer AEW. We've made it to the second half of the show now. So we got Blood and Guts coming up this Wednesday. We got Full Gear on the horizon, obviously, as well. I did not have a chance to check out Collision yet, but I did watch Dynamite this week. I don't know, Jesse, where do you want to start here with AEW?
Probably the Blood and Guts stuff.
Okay. So we talked about the rosters last week that had been finalized. I guess I could put that on the screen again.
Oh, good question there.
I should still have this. Oh wait, maybe I didn't save that. Maybe not. Sorry. I can get that ready. While I do that, I mean, give me your takes right now.
Sure, with the Greensboro. I mean, yeah, it's in Greensboro. I think the event's going to be 2.5 hours long, if I'm not mistaken, too. So they're going to give plenty of time for both of those War Games matches, which makes me a little concerned. They're throwing a Hangman Powerhouse Hobbs match in there. We'll talk about that later.
Mm-hmm.
The War Games builds as a whole, the Blood and Guts builds as a whole have been, I guess, fine. Some of it's similar to the gripes that I have with the WWE War Games situation, where the women, unfortunate circumstances with injuries and such, they're trying to slap things together in a 6-on-6, which is really weird. That's kind of going side by side with the tag team tournament that seems like it's going to take forever to finish.
Yeah.
I think part of that, if I saw correctly, Megan Baines over in Japan participating in the Stardom Tag Tournament. You've had quite a few other performers doing other events in Europe, which I think is cool, but it's also starting to stagnate things as well. So, yep, there's your Blood and Guts feature. Yeah, again, huge opportunity for the women. I think they're going to do extremely well. I just wish that it was built better, especially when they announced that they were the first the first Blood and Guts to announce, or it was like a month and a half ago. And then the build was so slow, it just, I don't know, it just kind of waned interest, and just I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah, definitely unfortunate injuries. I think we talked about last week with like Penelope Ford. She's got the death match history and all of that, and people were looking forward to seeing what she could do out there. And then unfortunately, she's got her arm in a sling right now, so we're not going to see that. But I don't know that. I think we were hoping that would be in the main event slot. I don't see it though. I highly doubt that's going to end up main eventing. When it was first announced, that was what we had hoped. I think we had said that on the show at the time. I can't see that happening right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, it would have been super easy to get to just keep the Mina Shirakawa out of this situation. And then on the other side, it'd probably be either Mercedes or Marina Shafir. You could go 5-on-5 there. I think it'd be cool to see Marina in there because she's had these issues with Willow Nightingale for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I think Chris Statlander over the last few months. So you could do that. And then also with Mercedes, I don't really picture her as a blood and guts type performer. Maybe you just want to protect her for a couple of weeks when she has an important match coming up, even though she has had a couple Hell in a Cell matches in WWE.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's the women's match. This is the men's. So we're hoping to see some direction for the Death Riders coming out of this. Do they break up? Do they move in a different direction? We've seen Moxley kind of going through it in recent weeks. But yeah, Death Riders taking on Darby, Mark Briscoe, Orange Cassidy, Roddy Strong, and Kyle O'Reilly. I struggled to find the picture here because on the AEW website, they have like a 600 pixel image as the feature, which is, if you're into like imaging, that's very small. You need to get some high res images up on the AEW website. Finally found it here on Fightful though. So thank you, Fightful. Yeah. So they're running Greensboro, which is one of the biggest arenas in the country. Obviously, this is where they did Sting's Farewell, which I could have drawn that parallel with John Cena too. the way that AEW built up to Sting's final match compared to what they're doing here with John Cena. Another drastically improved situation with Sting versus what they're doing with Cena. But yeah, last I checked, I can check where they're at for tickets for this. It's not going to be what they had in there for Sting's final match at Revolution. That was a massive, massive card. They are at 4,400 right now for Greensboro. The setup is 5,100. I'm sure they'll do like decent walk up.
They always do.
Yeah. They had 16,000 in there for Sting's last match.
Yeah.
Yeah. So their year to date though show average according to WrestleTix is 2,900. So this is above that, but I mean that is a cavernous building. I don't know. I've seen some talk out there why they would even book that venue. I think Tony likes running these buildings that have history. That was a building that Crockett WCW ran a lot, running a War Games inspired match in the building where kind of it was all born, where the company who started the match used to run. I think that has some appeal to him. I don't think he ever thought they were going to get 16,000 in there for Dynamite in 2025. But
I do think sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
I do think it's good to branch out and once every few months get into one of these larger buildings, as I talked about last week, trying to find that 3,000 to 5,000 seat venue for next year. But pop into a Greensboro for a Dynamite and see how well you do. So, I mean, this is kind of a metric that they can use moving forward. It's like, all right, well, we're getting right around 5, I think, with walk up. So yeah, I mean, I don't mind that they're doing this arena, like you mentioned, for the history specifically. And yeah, to John Hope's point in the chat, yes, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and unfortunately, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time will be there too, Ric Flair. I say unfortunately because of what's been going on with him over the last couple of years.
Yeah, unfortunately. So yeah, I don't know for sure, but it's an old building. I don't know what it costs to rent. I mean, certainly more than some of these smaller buildings are running, but I'm sure it's not like renting one of the modern NBA arenas that are NHL arenas that probably cost a ton to rent. So it's a historic building. It's a big building, yes, but I do think that Dynamite could start branching out. I think you mentioned this last week into some of the like 3,000 to 6,000 kind of like mid-major size arenas. I think they are kind of getting to the point where they could do that again. Some of these Dynamites have been doing decent ticket sales, so I think they're moving in the right direction. They're not WWE, but I think that they could maybe start running a bit bigger buildings. So we'll see.
And the more that I look at this men's blood and guts match, the more that I like it. I think now with Orange Cassidy, Darby Allin, and Mark Briscoe having quite a bit of history with the Death Riders, it's unfortunate. I mean, they've been doing what they can with Kyle O'Reilly in the last month because he's been wrestling Moxley a handful of times on Collision. They've had good matches. But I think you could have found maybe a couple of better of teammates than those two. Something who they have big beef with. The Death Riders. Unfortunately, with the injuries too, of course, Swerve and Ospreay, those would have been the easy answers.
Yeah. Should we talk about the women's tag tournament quick?
Yeah.
Let's see if I can get this image to share here. Whoops, I got to try something else now. Our podcast producing platform has had some changes, and it's a little difficult.
Good old Restream.
All right. There we go. Now, if I can figure out how to get this off the screen. Last week, I struggled with that at the end of the show. So we have victors on the left side of this bracket now, and we'll be looking at the right side. This is not updated, but obviously we had Willow and Harley advance, Sisters of Sin advance. So now we're going to get Tony and Mina taking on Windsor and Rio, and Bane and, well, it was Penelope Ford before the injury. And Ty J. Yeah. Ty J. Did you hear about what happened with Nixon Newell and them the other day? That is bizarre too. I guess that could have been a talking point as well. Refusing to lose to them because I guess the match was too short on Collision last week, was it?
This week, yesterday.
Oh, it was yesterday. Okay.
Yeah, they ended up switching out into Hyen, who's a really good independent performer, and then her tag team partner, whose name escapes me. Hyen could easily be signed, I think, to either promotion, and they only went like 3 minutes. So I guess in a sense, I am kind of surprised that they threw them in such a spot like that with the highest of the independent pedigrees behind them.
Yeah, I mean, people were pretty shocked that they walked out of the they walked out of the event and refused the match. They had what, one match in AEW prior?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, anyways, looking at this tournament, how do you see these two matches playing out, Jesse?
Whew. Still Tony and Mina.
Yeah.
And much to a lot of the IWC's chagrin, I'm going to go Megan Bain and Marina Shafir. I like them more as a duo as it is. They're so imposing. And they
Mhm.
gave Megan Bain a good 60-second segment last night on Collision, just highlighting what she's been doing for the last 6 to 7 months. So they're starting to give her a renewed push again after losing that title match to Tony. So you can play that up when you have that semifinal match, whenever that takes place.
You would think with the wonders of the internet, Jesse, that it'd be easy to find updated brackets, but it is not.
That's
It is not.
crazy.
If I had one big criticism of AEW from the media side, it is that their website just stinks. I mean, you pretty much have to navigate Twitter to find these images. They do not have much for, like, if you go to cover WWE and you're looking for a picture from WWE, well, now they have a license with Getty, and that makes it even easier if you have the Getty subscription. But even on their website, they got the photo galleries, they got lots of pictures every week. It is really, really hard to find stuff from AEW. That's why I don't have the updated bracket up here. I just found one on Twitter, finally, as I've been multitasking here. Again, I could probably use a producer on this show.
Promotion is one thing with
There we
AEW
go.
that they've slacked on, and yes, like you just said, the social media piece and making these graphics, that's kind of important.
Yeah. Okay. There it is. All right. So there is our updated bracket, and with the updated competitors with Marina Shafir on there with Megan Bain. Yeah. I'm pretty intrigued because I think on the right side, as we look at this visually of the bracket, I think again Tony and Mina are going to make it to the finals. I don't have any question about that.
Mhm.
But the left side, I'm curious which direction they go there. Because I guess both of them are real tag teams now. Like Willow and Harley come out with the matching gear, just like Sisters of Sin. Boy, I could really see that going either way, though. To be honest with you, Sisters of Sin or Willow and Harley. I'd probably pick Willow and Harley right now. Push came to shove, but I could see it going either way.
Especially with how they won it, I was stunned that Harley got the pin over
Yeah.
Athena.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess either one. That's kind of what really made you think that Monet and Athena were going to ride this thing for a while.
Yeah.
Was that just their star power alone would get them there? But yeah, that's and then I think it's playing into a ROH women's world title match between the two, Harley and Athena.
Yeah. Oh man, our chat is very active this morning. I am
They're on fire.
just catching up with tons of these messages. Wow.
And
Yeah,
I
the
also go ahead.
website is poorly made, Brittany. I agree. They could do better there. I'm available. Contact me, AEW. I've done a little bit with websites.
There we go. I also concur with John Hope in the chat about Ace Austin and Kyle Fletcher last night. That was an awesome singles match that I highly recommend people going back and watching.
Yeah, I am probably going to catch up on Collision after the Bears Giants game today. So late afternoon. I'm probably going to be watching Collision, and then in the weeks ahead, we're going to have quite a bit going on this podcast because we're gonna, I imagine, talk a lot about Blood and Guts. Next week, we'll have the week after that, we'll have our Full Gear review.
Mm-hmm.
The week after that, we'll have Survivor Series.
Mm-hmm.
And we got Thanksgiving in there as well. We're going to have TRN Classics on Halloween Havoc 89 dropping this week for our patrons, in addition to Unplugged, Jesse's Patreon show. God dang, guys. Never been a better time to support this show over on Patreon to get all of this content, because we got plenty of stuff cooking in the weeks ahead, and we're going to be staying busy trying to keep up with all of it. Jesse, I'm running around with my head cut off right now. It feels like just trying to watch everything: football, wrestling, the crazy news happening in our world, and my God, what a time to
Haven't
be
you been
alive.
running around like a chicken with your head cut off for about 8 years now?
I have, but since I took on the Bears podcast, it's been even harder because I'm doing that on Wednesday nights. I'm writing the column on the Bears too on Windy City Gridiron. So like now I'm not just like fanning over the Bears, but like watching game tape and like trying to be more smart about the evaluation. I'm watching like game tape of the teams that they're playing. It's been a lot to keep up with all of it, that and the wrestling. So when football ends sometime in January, it's going to be just wrestling again, and it's going to seem like a lot's off my plate. Don't get me wrong, I like doing all of it. I love wrestling and football, but it's definitely a lot to balance here right now. So there's going to be a week coming up probably where it might be next weekend, we'll see, where I'm going to need a Sunday off and leave it to Jesse and Justin. I'll definitely be on the pay-per-view review shows the 2 weeks after that. But
Look at you evaluating Sam blitzes from the outside just of the Chicago Bears opponents, whoever is a heavy blitzing team. Oh, I know of one. You'll be seeing them next weekend.
Yes, we will. The rematch between the Bears and Vikings. Are you going to the game?
No, I have my son.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That'll be a big one, man. Bears blew it week 1. They're going to want to get some revenge, but I think the Vikings are also better now, so tough place to play. We got TRN Bowl Part 2 next weekend, and then kind of this week too with Frank's Giants taking on the Bears. We dodged a bullet with 2 of their best 3 offensive players being out, Scattaboo and Neighbors. So Bears should win, but you never know in this league. You never know. Crazy stuff happens.
I went on record midweek saying that the winner of the Vikings-Ravens game is going to end up being the hottest team in the NFL by the end of the season. I think that's how pivotal it is for both of these teams. Everybody's calling the Ravens like that team. They're going to steal the AFC North. They were favorites to win the division at 2-5.
Yeah.
I think if the Ravens win, which I actually am pegging them to defeat the Vikings this week, I feel the Vikings are in for a letdown after an emotional win last week against a division rival.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Ravens are going to go on a big run to end 2025.
The Bears are pretty hot right now, but I don't think they will be at the end of the year. Our schedule gets brutal. We got to stack some wins the next 4 weeks or so to be in the mix come end of the season. We'll see.
I think the Bears can do it next weekend. It's just like I said, it's all going to depend on that Vikings-Ravens game this week and where it goes.
Yeah, that will be interesting. That's a noon game too, right?
Yes.
We're playing at the same time. Because I was a little nervous they'd show the Vikings game here and I'd have to resort to other means to watch it. But the Bears are on here, so I will be watching that. Yes, indeed. All right. There's your football chat, you guys.
That is correct. Sorry, American football, not
American football. Justin's been enjoying true football, some of our listeners would say, today with his cousin. I think we hit everything we wanted to talk about. Even through my noise canceling headphones, I can hear my children starting to scream.
Woo.
And so I don't end up getting divorced because my wife is losing her mind with these children. I'm going to have to go relieve her at this point before the Bears start, and I check out again for a little bit. So, Jesse, I think we got a wrap, man. This has been fun.
Yes, it most certainly has been. We'll talk more about Hangman Page next week, Okada, Takeshita, direction, etc. for AEW.
Yeah. I was also going to tell you guys, it's not currently working. It's going through a migrating process right now. I just checked to see. We have a new website that I worked on yesterday in the midst of all this craziness.
Wow.
That will be soon online, I hope. When I migrated our domain over, the website has not been loading yet, and apparently it takes a few hours for that to kind of flesh itself out across the interwebs. So topropenation.com in the next 24 to 48 hours is going to look different. And I think you guys will like the new design. So that's something you can check out if you are interested. I've been talking with support about that. Why is this not loading? So hopefully that will be up soon. So check that out. Check out Patreon this week. Again, at least 2 bonus shows dropping, including a new edition of TRN Classics, which you guys will enjoy. And Carl may be on our Full Gear review, cashing in his top tier Patreon benefit, Hall of Fame tier Patreon benefit, he just said in the chat. So maybe we'll be hearing from Carl in a couple of weeks as well.
That's the bonus out there for those. You can join us in the guest chair. It's always fun with a quadrant, especially with a missing Justin joint this week. So we did the best we could to pick up the slack.
Yes. And I talked about last week on our 400th episode, the 15% off discount on all Top Rope Nation merchandise. There is a link right now in the broadcast description, or if you just search Top Rope Nation Fourth Wall Store, it'll show up since our website's down right now. I'm going to leave that 15% up through the rest of the day on Sunday. So if you want some of that merch, go to the store, Top Rope Nation. It's on fourthwall.com. Just Google Top Rope Nation Fourth Wall Store. And you'll be able to find it. Everything's marked down 15%. The price will show up once you go to checkout with the discount on it if you are interested. All right, guys, it's been fun. It's been episode 401. We will talk to you all next weekend. Take care.
Hangman Page for president.